So I'm going to do a bit of flattening and polishing on this bonnet now, and I sort of jumped the gun a bit, and this section here I did with, oh, look who's about. This section here I did with 1200 paper, and then I polished it using different types of cutting creams and mops, and it was just really to jump the gun and just so we can get started on this, because it does take a little bit of time. But you can see I put that bottle on there, and you can see the shine on that, and it looks quite nice. And when you look round it, it's still got a white haze on it, and I think that's because my microfiber cloths are so like, I don't know, rough. Yeah, but that's what's called swirls and things like that. You can get them out, but I'm still not 100% convinced that this paint's very good. So that's that bit, and if we look at this half here, this is what came straight out the gun, and you can see by looking at that light excuse me, you can see the orange peel that's in that light when I move the camera around. This is just a bit of when I've been playing around with the polisher. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to put the camera on the stand, and I'm going to feed me raccoon because he's going to be noisy, and then I'm going to show you how to wet flat with an orbital sander. So this time I'm going to use my orbital sander. I've flattened polished that with a rubber block and some 1200, but I've got some 1500 papers here, and I'm going to use those this time on this piece, because it's got a little bit of dust in it. But you see, this shop isn't perfect for paint, and perhaps your place isn't too. So sometimes you've got to work on paint once it's on, just to get that dust out and make it a pretty good finish. Now this little thing's called a palm sander, and it's this one's made by Ingersoll Rand, and it's polycarbonate, and it's really light. Gone are the days when we used to have those great big DA sanders, we used to call them, the dual action. That's what the DA stands for, because if you can see how it works, wait a minute, it not only goes round and round, but it goes in an orbit like this, which is nice, but it does lead to what's called swirls and marks in your paint. When you polish it, you'll see little loops and things like this, and this is why it's really important not to use a bucket, because you want to keep washing it all the time with our dollar shop sprayer. And the nice thing about the dollar shop sprayer is it's got a little filter at the bottom, so if you do get any bits of grit in it, it'll wash it all out. So again, soft. This is nice and soft, but I'm going to do a first cut to get the grit out of the top, and we can't really avoid dust in this workshop because it hangs in the air, and I haven't got a big extractor fan, and I didn't design it as a body shop. So I'm going to put this on and give it a wet down. There you go, plenty of water on there, and just ever so lightly go across the top, and you've got to keep this wet. Now that is great when you're doing flat panels, and you can see there was no pickup of any paint or dust on this pad. But you're going to say, what about when we do edges and corners and things like that? Well, here's a secret weapon. This, ooh, that was nice. This is an intermediate pad made of very soft sponge with Velcro on both sides. And what you do is you put it in between your paper. Well, it's not that one, this one, And again, this is a nice thing about using Velcro rather than sticking pads, because you can do it wet. So if you want to do the sides now with this, it won't cut and make a great big gouge in your paint. So this is nice to use, and you can see if I twist and turn this, the paper's always going to be in contact with your work surface. Really nice, eh? It's funny, it took me about 30 years to find all this stuff. I should have gone to school to learn it. But there you go. You don't have to go to school now, you can watch this video. Now again, if you haven't got a compressor or an air supply or anything like this, you can still do this by hand, but using that red soft rubber block that I showed you in the previous video. So what I'm going to do now is wash this off and dry it, and then we'll come back to doing polishing. So we're going to use is that the polish or the, oh, that's the finishing polish. This stuff, I always lay them on the side when I'm going to work, because this stuff is quite dense and it always sinks to the bottom. Don't worry about it being wet, that's part of the business. Alright? Because this stuff, what's it, Presta cutting cream, is actually water based, and one of the problems is when you've been polishing a car, using or compounding a car, it can spray everywhere with your buffer here. And when it dries, if you use a petroleum-based cutting cream, then it's a bugger to get off, because if you haven't masked your car off, you'll get this all over your black plastic, you know, the little spray bits, it'll go all over the place, and it's a hell of a job to clean off. Whereas this, you just get your power washer and power wash it off and it's good. So what we're going to do, we've got water everywhere, but I'm still using electric. Yeah. So we're going to spread that around. And we're just going to polish. Now some people like to put this on full blast. Where is it now? To me that's far too much. You see, you don't want to burn your paint. It's so easy. And you can now start to see the polish and the wetness is starting to dry out, and now you'll start to see a finish. Now if you see any little swirls, from your orbital sander, you can just concentrate and just buff them out a little bit. But I don't know if you can see, I hope you can see it. I'll take the camera off in a minute and put it at another angle, because it's difficult to work and show you what I'm doing at the same time. But that's looking kind of nice. All the dust's come out. So there we go, that's that one done. And now we're going to move on to a finer compound. Now the wool is, I find it's nice. And you can see the green colours come out with the compound that we've used. So the next thing we're going to use is a superfine foam pad. Now we really should use a different product with this, because these polishes and things like this are designed for a system. This is a 3M system, and that's for, well, I don't know, something else. But if you've got one system, you sort of stick with it. But over the years I've got different bits and pieces, and I've been working in 2 different areas of town, so I think I've left my polishing mops somewhere else. So this time we don't need any water. Just going to spread that to cutting cream over, and we're going to start ever so lightly to polish up. Now I'm rushing this a little bit because I want to make this video as short as I can, but I think my raccoon's sending me a message. So now I'm just going to grab hold of some polish, like car polish, put it on. Ah, damn, it is all getting right down to the bottom. Ah, damn, let's take the top off. Come on. This is why you lay your cans on the side or upside down. Well, I think that's the end of that. We'll just have to make the best of it. So we're going to just, you see, it doesn't matter if it's wet, it's alright. So now we're going to leave that to dry. So after leaving it to dry for a minute or so, and it's not a very nice day today, we're just going to give that a buff, very light buff over, very ever so light, and you can see how easy it is to mark. And that's our finish. Now I'm going to take the camera off now, and we're going to look at some reflections of lights in the ceiling. I thought as a final look at this bonnet before we, put it away for a while, we'll have a look at the reflection of the repair in natural light. There, look at those sexy boots, eh? So I hope you can see that. The lights in the garage being LED aren't really sort of all that spectacular. You can see where I stuck a piece of tape across there and it didn't really stick with the... I didn't polish that out, but yeah, I think that's quite presentable for a Land Rover. It's not a Rolls Royce, but it's got a good deep shine, a good reflection. I mean, what more do you want? It's only... I mean, apart from the paint, which cost $40, well, there's maybe about $5 or $6 worth of Evercoat, a little splash of primer, a couple of bucks, a few papers. Papers would have cost about $15, $20. and polishing materials maybe $2-3, not much. So there you go. That's a repair. So I think you could have a go at that yourself. There's no big deals in that. Maybe you should have a go at this other side. Now I'm going to try and put a little piece of video in to show you what this was like before, so you can get an idea from this hinge, especially in this area where it was all pocky. So anyway, hope you like that, and we'll talk to you later.